Bismillah, Assalamu alaikum. In today's video, I'll be making an argument for Hadith preservation that I think is an absolutely massive proof for Hadith preservation. Namely, this is the argument from NASA stating of visible solar eclipses in history. Let's get started. So here's the argument. NASA's website has a method for calculating historical solar eclipses, when they took place, and from what regions they were visible and from what regions they weren't visible. There are two historical solar eclipses that are fairly accurately described in our historical records. The death of Hazrat Ibrahim radiallahu anhu, the son of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the martyrdom of Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu. NASA's method shows that solar eclipses at both of these times that are mentioned in our historical records were visible in Medina. This is an absolutely massive proof for Hadith preservation. I don't think there's any way around this point. Why? Because again, this is a very specific event, two very specific events. One of them is the date for the death of Hazrat Ibrahim radiallahu anhu can be derived reasonably within a given range, while the martyrdom of Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu can be dated very specifically. Both of these, one through a range and one exact date, is mentioned in our historical records, a particular event taking place. We have independent verification that these events did take place, which is why this is a massive proof for Hadith preservation. And think about this point: if Islamic historical records are inaccurate, right, or they are making things up, how is it possible that did they magically just guess the correct dates of these eclipses? If our records are later made up, right? Did they just magically guess the dates of these solar eclipses, and that happens to accidentally coincide with NASA's dating? I don't think anyone in their right mind will make that claim. There is no way around this being a massive proof for Hadith preservation. So here's the basic evidence for my point that the eclipses were visible in visible in Medina as shown by NASA. Basically, there are two. This is from Medina. There are two eclipses here that are relevant to our discussion. One is in 632, January 27, 632, and the other eclipse is November 5, 644. These are the two relevant eclipses. And by the way, if someone has difficulty seeing this, I will link the link to NASA's website and the way to get this link in the video description. And I also link a thread that will have further evidences or the argument in more detail than what I'm giving here. So here's the narration regarding the death of Hazrat Ibrahim radiallahu anhu. This is in Sahih Bukhari. I think it's in Sahih Muslim as well, and this is actually quite famous. So I won't spend time right now reading it. Now, basically, for my point to work, right? Because the date of martyrdom of Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu is very easily proven. It's direct. Like, we have very strong, even archaeological evidence for that. So I won't go into proving that. But the date of death of Hazrat Ibrahim radiallahu anhu is actually a bit more complicated. So I have to show that when this event actually happened, because we don't have archaeological evidence in this regard, though we now have evidence from NASA. Basically, Hazrat Ibrahim radiallahu anhu from authentic hadith can be reliably shown to have lived for 18 months. Numerous sources mention that the Treaty of Hudaybiyah took place in Zulqa'dah in the year 6th Hijri. Prophet Muhammad started sending letters to foreign rulers in late 6th or early 7th Islamic century. Maria radiallahu anha, the mother of Hazrat Ibrahim radiallahu anhu, arrived with the response of Muqawqis, the ruler of Egypt. So she arrived sometime in 7th Hijri, right? Because of this, a birth date before 8 Hijri is implausible, because 9 months, at least a minimum of 9 months have to take for the birth, right? So a birth date of Hazrat Ibrahim radiallahu anhu before 8th Hijri is implausible. Now, adding 18 months to the start of 8th Hijri puts us in the middle of 9th Hijri. So this is the earliest possible date for this eclipse. Prophet Muhammad passed away in 11th Hijri's Rabiul Awwal. So that's the last possible date. So what we have here is a date range for this eclipse to have taken place basically between October 6:30 and June 6:32. In this range, only one visible eclipse took place, that was visible in Medina. Other eclipses in this time period were not visible from Medina. Uh, you would have difficulty seeing this, but this is the, I think, sixth or seventh one from the last January 27, 6:32. So we have only one eclipse in this time period. So I think this clearly proves the point about Hadith preservation, and why I think it's clear why this shows the authenticity of Islamic historical records. Now, someone might try to make the contention that this can happen by chance. A lot of solar eclipses take place, and so basically, if one eclipse solar eclipse happens to fall into this range, right? This doesn't really work as a strong proof for Hadith preservation. This contention is wrong. Why? Because here's the range is 18 months. Actually, it's not 18 months. October, November, December, right? 3 months, 12, 15, and 6 after that. So about 20 months. We can reasonably take a range of 20 months here, right? So basically, the contention assumes that it is likely that eclipses would be visible in Medina. Many eclipses would be visible in Medina in that time period, or that eclipses usually are visible in such a time period. So this argument doesn't work. This contention is false. Why? Because here is a list of eclipses that were visible in Medina, right? Or the dates on which eclipses took place. One in March. Again, these are 7 dates here. Now you can see these eclipses don't happen suddenly. For instance, our range is 20 months, right? I think only 2 of these eclipses are basically are separated by a time period less than that. And most of the eclipses actually take place after much longer time periods. For example, look at the last two: September 2nd, 620, and April 21, 627. This is a gap between eclipses of 7 years, and similar gaps can also be found elsewhere. So it's not the case that you can say eclipses magically happen all the time. If one happens to fall into this particular range, that doesn't prove Hadith preservation. It is very likely, it's very plausible that an eclipse didn't happen in this particular time period, because here we have gaps of an eclipse not happening for 7 years, for 3 years, for 3 years, for 1 year, here for 7 years again, for 2 years, for 3 years, right? So it's very likely, it's very plausible that an eclipse wouldn't happen to fall into this particular range. It can easily happen, yet that's not the case. We can derive a range, a very short range actually, of 18 months or 20 months. When an eclipse is mentioned in our historical record, we can find out that an eclipse did take place in that particular time period. Hence, this is a massive proof for Hadith preservation. Now, there's another point to be made here. Maybe someone can try to whine about the range, because there's a range involved and an eclipse taking place. It's not that massive proof for Hadith preservation. This contention doesn't work. Here's the reason why. There's another eclipse that happened at the time of martyrdom of Hazrat Umar Raziyallahu Anhu. This can very plausibly be dated to November 644. I won't go into the details for this dating, but there's much stronger evidence for this, and I'll link the thread which I'm using as a resource, and I also link NASA's website from where I'm getting this information regarding the eclipses. This Hazrat Umar Raziyallahu Anhu's death can be dated very plausibly to November 644. That is when another solar eclipse can be dated by NASA as well, that is visible from Medina. This took place on 5th November 644. So most of the whining that could apply to the first point, right, it cannot possibly apply here because of such strong evidence for the dating of Hazrat Umar Raziyallahu Anhu's martyrdom. No one in their right mind can claim that these eclipses being mentioned in our historical records and then NASA showing that eclipses to have taken place on these dates is a coincidence. No one can claim this is by luck if they are honest and they are using their brain, right? If they are turned off their brains Of course, it's easy to think that this is a coincidence. This is an absolutely massive proof for Hadith preservation. There is no way around this point because the Hadith are mentioning specific events that took place, and NASA is confirming that these events took place on the dates or in the range of dates mentioned by a Hadith, which is why this is an absolutely massive proof for Hadith preservation. Inshallah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I know I've been focusing on evolution for quite some time, and while I don't intend to stop making videos on evolution, I will do a lot more content on Hadith preservation as well. Inshallah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please like and share this video. By the way, the research on this, like a lot of the arguments I make for Hadith preservation, they are either my arguments or me seriously modifying other older arguments. This is not my argument. This argument has been around for quite some time, and a friend of mine did the research on this part. I didn't do it. So anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please share it. Do like the video. Do subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you are interested in the topics I focus on, such as evolution, Hadith preservation, etc., that are not focused on commonly in Dawa, please share the videos and share my YouTube channel. It really helps me out a lot. Till next time, Assalamu alaikum.